Hi, I'm Luke Searveld. Welcome to another episode of Meet the Gaffer. Today we're going to talk about the Spotlight Max from Aputure. I've got Alan Steinheimer, Shane Lewis with me, and we're in Shane's shop. And we just have a 9-foot seamless, so it'd be nice if it was a little bit larger, but we'll pan and tilt to show you the edges. What we're going to do is we're going to pair units with the Max, and we're going to compare the Max to other spot mounts. There's a whole history that is behind, why we even want these types of units. But basically, it gives you a sort of theatrical light that allows you to shape your light with cutters and with gobos, as well as put in different lenses, which I usually call barrels, that give you a different degree of light. So like John Roach, I got a 50 degree with this unit. I was given the choice of any type of barrel, and I went with the 50 degree because recently in the Spotlight mounts that have been put out there, 50 degree wasn't available. There'd be a 19 and a 36, maybe a 26, but no 50. So 50, for me, I know you guys were saying that you don't really use 50s anymore, but 50s in a tight room where you can't get the fixture far enough away from the area that you want to illuminate, it's nice to be able to have that wide angle if you're going to throw up a pattern or something like that. If you're shooting across the room, if you're going into CRLS, if you're using it in other ways or having a long throw, more theatrical type throw, then you want narrow, you want 26, you want 19. Some people even have the 10, right? But here we've got the 50, and so we are missing a few things. We don't have other barrels. We don't have the ETC adapter that would allow us to use the old style Series 2 lenses that many people have a lot of, or you can find if you don't own them. Those are sort of economical and easy to get to. We don't have that adapter for this. We have another adapter for the Nanlux that will compare, and we have the smaller spot mount from Aputure that we'll throw into the mix that was made for the 300 series, but often used with the 600 series. So we'll see how the 600 series works on this unit. And then we also have the Nanlite mount that was for the 720B. We're just at 10 feet from the end of the barrel to the seamless, and we'll take readings. We'll mostly work with 5600 for the units that do tungsten. We'll do that in raw. So basically we'll go from just seeing the unit raw, no cuts, no gobo, raw, sharp, so we can look at the edges and color aberration, any kind of fringing, and then we'll go out of focus, then we'll go to cutting, and then we'll go to gobos. Let me just jump in here to say that this is a long episode, so if you don't have time to watch everything, there are chapters below. But let me give you the highlights, pros and cons, because this was just the three of us checking out this unit for the first time, so our feedback is raw, and I just kind of let it roll. Didn't even check the exposure that well, so that that sort of fluctuates as well. The Spotlight Max has a pretty good cross field sharpness and nice clean blade cut. We now have a spot mount that is designed for the Aputure 600 series. Here we try it with the 600X and the 600C. If you've been using the existing spot mount that was optimized for the 300 series, the Max is a definite step up. A nice surprise is that the Spotlight Max also plays well with the ProLite Orion 675. Up till now, I've been using the 675 with the Nanlite spot mount. This is a good new option. I really appreciate having a 50 degree barrel available because that's something that has been left out of many recent designs by other manufacturers. The Spotlight Max is solidly built. The rotatable Gobo pattern holder is a nice feature, easy to spin into the position you want. And now some cons. The rotatable Gobo pattern holder is great, but it seems to have created other issues due to the thickness of the holder, there's enough distance between the gobo and the cutters that the line created by the cutters is maybe not as precise as one would want if you're using the cutter blades with gobos, which you do. Also, getting the gobo in and out of the gobo holder is a little clunky. But with experience, I'm sure it'll be easier. It's totally doable. But as we were doing it for the first time, it was a little fidgety. You'll definitely want a few gobo holders on hand if you're going to look at multiple gobos in quick succession. We have that with regular ellipsoidals now. You have a bunch of pattern holders. That's it. You can rotate the gobo, but you can't rotate the barrel. So if you want to rotate the cutters further than they're able to go, you can't. It's a feature we came to expect with older fixtures, and now we have to work around that. Having two knobs to lock the barrel in place is good, but the change in focus as you tighten the knobs is substantial, so that will take some getting used to. Godox actually added a knob that allows you to fine-tune your focus without touching the barrel, which was a nice feature. The Bones mount has significant play, which is a little disconcerting. It doesn't seem to affect the output quality, but it's just another reason why we're starting to see manufacturers move away from that mount on larger fixtures. ProLight's lock with the Orion, however, does do a great job of making a firm connection. As precision as we'd like Spotlight mounts to be, it's a near impossible task. As I say later on in the video, all the spot mounts currently out there do something well, but none of them do all things well. It's just a matter of moving from point source to cob or, a cluster of emitters. And on top of that, we're working with a 50-degree barrel, which is cool, but because it's wide, it's also sort of the worst case scenario. Now, that's kind of the idea of a test, to find where the unit breaks down. Also know that Aputure has put together their own test with multiple fixtures. I'll link that below. What this video is 3 gaffers thinking about how they're going to use this new piece of gear and how it matches with what they already own and regularly use. Oh, and spoiler alert, the Nanlux Evoke 1200B paired with the Nanlux ETC barrel adapter is brighter than the Aputure 1200D plus Spotlight Max. But with the Nanlux ETC barrel adapter, you're not going to get as fine a cut or pristine patterns. You'll gain a half stop of output and be able to change the white point. If it's output you want, get tighter lenses and keep using the 800 Joleeko, which is still king. You're just not going to be able to easily dim it, crossfade, or change colors. Details. Let's get back to it. So we'll start off with the Aputure 1200D in the Spotlight Max with the 50-degree, and it's raw. We got this at 100%, and this is as sharp as I could get it there. So now it's
not totally even left to right there. Well, you are panning, but
so on this right side, let's see if I can get that sharper. So there are 2 knobs to tighten your barrel, and once you tighten them, it does affect your sharpness. So if that was, sharpness on right side, still pretty sharp on the left side. But now if I tighten down this one knob here, okay. And then if I tighten down the bottom one, now that we've gotten a little softer on the far side. But barrels have always been kind of funky. It's hard to get perfect.
The other factor on this 50-degree barrel too is that the distance from the barrel to the center of the image and the distance to the outer edges is actually pretty substantial, whereas like a narrow barrel that we might more often use 26 or 19 would be less of a distance. You're more likely to hold the focus at that flat surface because the distance from the barrel is closer, basically.
Right. Right. And we'll see that with the Gobos too. The smaller Gobo, little better edge to edge than the bigger Gobo.
Right.
Especially with the 50 degree. So let's get a reading here. So that's 200. And you've got 2 lockdown handles. That does freak me out, the looseness of it.
A lot of slop in the mount.
And your unit isn't upright. Now let's go out of focus. So there's this max out of focus. Okay.
Feels like there's less physical travel and less de-sharpening than a traditional Leco barrel.
Yeah, that was the edge of it. And let's just look at the cut.
Do you want to sharpen it up
Yeah.
too?
So,
And then, I wonder.
so here, if we're sharp on the edge,
Right, because this is also telling us if the
and I'll come in.
cutter. So
So
the plane of the cutters is also different than where the light actually comes through.
yeah, because now I have to
You
sharpen
have
it
to
again.
re-sharpen it.
Okay. And tightening doesn't change it too much there, which is nice. It looks like we have sort of blue on one side and warm
Oh
on the
yeah,
other
there's a
side.
little chromatic on, but
Yeah.
there's often chromatic on a
Yeah.
This is still cleaner than a.
even a Joleeko. There's
Joleeko.
chromatic on
Yeah.
something narrow.
Big time. Yeah, so that's,
Pretty good.
yeah,
And not that much distortion, I think, for
No.
50 too.
Yeah,
right, so that's actually a good thing.
Can you rotate it? So if we wanted to spin this thing,
No,
oh,
yeah.
Boo-hoo.
So that, that of course is the gorilla in the room. You can't rotate the barrel so that your cutters are changeable. You have to change them yourself, and that of course you can't get any more rotation than that, which is sad.
like 30 degrees off of
Yeah, it's interesting. It's
center.
like you have to clean the blades. It's so sharp.
Okay, so the mechanism here is a little bit weird. It's like a spring tension system. So you have to press in on one side and then push the other side out in order to get this retaining ring out, and then you can take out your Gobo. It has this adapter for smaller B-size Gobos into this larger A-sized hole, or it can take the A-sized Gobos. The retaining ring holds either one in. You just have to use the adapter with the B size. And then to get that in again, you line that up.
With a little indent.
There's 2 little notches that I assume are so that you can see where the spring is and where you would have to push. But I find it has been easiest if you push it into the spring side like a battery, and then set the other side in. And then, so pushing the spring down allows you to pop it out from the back. These do get really hot though, so wear gloves. Remember gloves? Okay, so that's
Okay, so let's put the small one in.
small ones. Yeah. And then you want to see it in.
Yeah.
It seems like this should go oriented so that the pattern is closer to the side with the cutters, although it's not right up against them, so there's going to be some sharpness discrepancy. There's a little pin on this side you have to pull out in order to get that to slot in, and it locks the pattern holder in place.
And sharpen it up.
And then you'll need to pull that to release it as well. And then if you've ever used a rotopola, it's a very similar mechanism to spin and annoy your gaffer.
So we do see a difference on the top to bottom and a little bit left to right in terms of sharpness.
This isn't too bad left to right in this smaller Gobo. So if we loosen the bottom one, do the side one, so there's out of focus, and then coming into focus. Oh, there we go, color fringing on the left. It's definitely starting to heat up, this barrel.
Interesting, we see it up more on the left than the right.
So
I think we're
there-
not entirely square to this seamless.
Oh,
Maybe.
that's worse.
Yeah, it's
Way worse.
yeah.
Do you think the metal might be bending? Bowing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's very soft on the bottom. So that, they're actually sharpened up when so if I don't tighten up the bottom one, then it stays relatively the
Well,
same, but
I-
there, our bottom's very,
I feel like you actually need to tighten the bottom one because when it's loose, then the barrel is slightly not aligned with the rear elements. It's just tricky because it does. You have to almost set it for the bottom, or I guess you can't. You have to maybe set it slightly out so that it.
comes in when you tighten, because that really changed it a lot there. So here, I'll put it out, no, so I'll put it the other way, that way, and then it comes in. So closer to the unit, and then turning helps it get a little sharper. That didn't help at all.
Yeah, I do wonder. I mean, the 50 of all the barrels, the 50 is going to be the one with the most distortion because it is
Yeah.
bending. It's the widest angle one that we have. But we are going to compare it to a 50, ETC barrel too. So
There's so much shift when I tighten this up.
Yeah, that's a
Look at that.
little disappointing.
yeah, because you would I'm not gonna stand around and
Yeah.
wait for this to happen. It'll just be like, yeah, it's fine, it's close enough, and then
So normally
Not
with Gobos, I don't go for sharp. If it's somebody's logo, yes. But usually I want it a little fuzzed out. So if I fuzz it, that's usually good enough for where I'm using it, something like that. But it's interesting that then when I tighten it up, it gets all sharp again.
Yeah. I mean, I do find we're shooting, many shoots now are shot nearly wide open where they're trying to soften the background,
Yeah.
more cinema style. And so in the end, there's a lot of things in the background that really aren't that sharp. And
Right.
I'm not sure, this is more like a lab test where you may not actually see this in practice all that often.
But here the outside is much sharper on the bottom than it is on the top or on the sides. So that seems like an odd
I wonder if the
plane change.
Gobo is not centered on the
Oh, uh-huh. Yeah,
that-
but because it's so small,
it shouldn't matter that much.
yeah, it just barely fits into the circle to start with.
You want to see what it looks like with the other Gobo?
Yeah, so now let's go with
Larger
the
one.
A-size Gobo. And that's
Yeah.
here.
Get your gloves.
And then I'm going to see if I can pop it out quickly. So retaining ring, the spring is there. Push and, oh, that's hot. So,
There's part of your glove
yeah.
melted to the. like pliers or something, huh?
There's nothing fast about this. Oh, there it is. Okay. Put in the A-size Gobo. There we go.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you would definitely want to give some thought to owning 2 of these pattern holders, which I do with regular Ecos anyway, because I'm often auditioning, 2 different looks or more. So having a second one that's cooling down while the other one's,
Absolutely.
working, probably be a good idea.
Yeah, because if you're hunting for a look, you're using multiple Gobos quickly. So, yeah, the left to right is definitely...
Now it's the opposite. Now the top is softer than the bottom.
Have you physically looked at it in terms of how flat that Gobo's laying down in there?
Oh, yeah,
Like, can you see a
'cause that-
wave at all to it?
Well, and if that retaining ring's not seated all the way,
There's a bow to it.
There is a bow to it.
is it
It's a
seated?
substantial bow, actually.
Well, seat this whole ring all the way in. It's a little.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
It's not in all the way.
Okay.
That looks a little better. Well, it's got a bow to it.
It's got a bow.
So that's
That could explain a fair amount of our issue here.
discrepancy. Yeah, because I don't know where's the.
I mean, we should see the same effect then on these other ones, likely.
Yes, but we would not
that-
see it on an old school or on.
No, I think
or-
we'd see it there too. Oh, well, that'd be my guess.
Well, with an older pattern holder.
Well, it does grab it closer
It-
to the edges. Yeah, well, you're right. Maybe that will be different and better.
The problem is you
It's-
can't use a standard ETC holder. You have to use the rotator.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
unless you buy the adapter and then. Oh no, you
No,
still
it
have to
doesn't
use
adapt
this.
that
No.
part.
Okay, never mind.
So there, you have sharpness still up above and not...
If you spin the gobo,
Uh-huh.
because if that then moves with it, then it is the gobo itself being right out, not flat.
But no,
No, it's still at the top,
yeah,
which is actually the bottom.
right,
I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, how much does it actually matter?
right.
But at the same time, like, we want to try to have tools be designed so that they work correctly, and then we can make the decisions we want about how to use them.
Yeah,
Not have things that
And
that
you-
were compensating for the issues that they have.
Sure, and then some gobos are going to call for more overall equal sharpness, and I would say a Venetian's one of them.
Right.
Versus some
Right.
abstract kind of thing.
one thing you don't get, I don't see a whole lot of the rest of the circle beyond the...
Right, there's a tiny little edge there, but that is
Yeah.
that you could actually clean up with the cutters maybe.
Right,
And
so let's see what
although you can't, we discovered can't use the cutters in conjunction with the gobo because the planes are so far
yeah,
apart that you can't have both of them be sharp.
yeah,
Whereas with like a traditional ETC, the pattern holder is basically right up against the shutters.
interesting here, you see,
This-
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
like a...
Repeat.
Yeah, it's probably just the lens taking some. That might be because there's a gap between the cutters and the gobo that some light is spilling in there, bouncing around just enough to give you a little bit of.
Relation.
Well, probably has something to do with the cob factor as well.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So we're learning some things, and we'll see how that compares. So this was 200 to 220, full bore, 100% in the center. Let's see where it is on the side. Just because.
That is true. This is much more even than a Joleeko for sure.
Yep.
But I guess we'll see if it is as bright.
So here we're at like 140.
Uh-huh.
So it doesn't fall off.
So that's what, a half a stop?
Yeah. All right. Then moving on. This is 600X. And we'll get there. It's about center there.
That is 100-foot candles.
100-foot candles. So half
Half.
of the 1200, which is odd because you'd think that would be true for the 600D, not the 600X. But that means the lens is taking something out of it.
Oh, it's exactly half? Huh. Well, it is sort of
But this is
interesting.
bicolor, so.
Yeah, but that's nice to know. Fuzz this out. It doesn't really gain us that much. So that's towards the outside. That's actually kind of nice.
It's kind of cleaner than,
Yeah.
like the edge is cleaner than the 1200.
I like that. And then
Well,
going
right, the cob size is
Yeah.
smaller,
and then
right?
going the
So,
other way. So that's, yeah. So it was nicer the other way.
Yeah.
Okay. See that one more time. Yeah, I like that.
yeah, there's a, well,
What does that look
I
like?
guess they all fall off at the edges, huh?
Well, it's fuzzed out, so yes.
What were you asking for?
Well, if you cut in on this, and then what does the edge look like?
Okay.
That's kind of nice.
Huh. And then if I sharpen it a little. Huh. Not super clean, but the top and bottom are a little odd.
And that pattern's exactly in the middle, right? Because,
There's no pattern in this right now.
oh,
Yeah,
right,
this is just raw. Yeah, so there's a little
little,
aberration on the left and right.
And this is seamless paper, and it's not entirely flat either. So, so there is that discrepancy a little bit with it.
Oh, let me do that really skinny.
Oh, still warm.
to look warped now.
So it has the same thing where it's a little blue on the left and a little red on the right. But it's nice and clean.
Yeah, pretty clean, normal things.
Well, I think the biggest problem with this is that there's just so much play,
So I can move around.
so it can move around like a significant amount in any direction. So then if it's not, so I think that combined with it kind of warping a little bit. Although it is a thicker, it's like they tried to maybe compensate for it.
Oh,
by
this is
making
their
it-
one, their Gobos
their
too.
Gobo. So I wonder how much that has to do with it. But
Well, right.
there's
they-
so much play there.
These are all their Gobos.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's definitely. It's like twice as thick as a
Right. Probably.
regular Gobo. It's just, but this is one from someone else.
That's the
Yeah, that's
holder
mine.
is from here, but the
Yeah,
Gobo is loose.
yeah.
That's like a regular Roscoe
Right.
one, I think.
Well, I do like being able to rotate it in. That is nice. But I can't have my cutters have a Gobo. So, yeah, that's,
Not bad.
It's
It's
not bad.
better than the 1200D, probably
Mhm.
because the patterns or the cob's smaller.
mm-hmm,
There's a lot of play on this.
on the,
Just saw that.
on the actual, Yeah. It's not
Is it making any difference? I don't see that much difference.
no.
No.
Okay.
So there's the top.
Sort of the inherent weakness of the Bowens mound is,
Exactly.
And that's what the Pro Light, remedies with the locking mechanism.
yeah.
So that'd be interesting.
Well,
So the bottom's pretty sharp here. The top there loses a little bit,
Right. Which
it's
is
better than a 1200D though.
but not bad at all.
You know.
Yeah. So it seems like this is a nice fit. This 600.
right.
Yeah. Also
But-
not as gigantic weight just to
Yeah.
Yeah.
park someplace.
And then just for yucks, let's go to color.
You mean
Tungsten.
tungsten?
Yeah, I'm sorry. We'll go to 3200. Yeah. And then if I take this out, where are we at? That guy.
64-foot candles.
Okay.
Tungsten.
So not quite a stop difference, but it does bring it down.
Yeah, pretty close. 2/3 at least.
Yeah. 600C.
That's 64.
64. Okay, good. All right. So that was like tungsten on the 600X.
Right. Do you want to just check tungsten on this while we're here?
Sure. 52.
Okay.
That's actually kind of nice to know that it's not that far away from your 600X, in tungsten at least. Let's see, it's fuzzed out, see if there's any color aberration with the
Because the chip
fringing.
on this is larger than the 600X. Actually, it's kind of interesting. I've been looking at the front element here, and you can kind of see this. The size of the light coming out of the front was smaller on the X than it was on the 12, and this is also larger than the X, closer to the 1200.
Oh, interesting. So that's similar, not as pronounced as the X in this mode. And then if I go to that side, the front, yeah,
It seems pretty similar. Huh?
yeah. Yeah, it seems like it plays well with the 600 series.
I would hope it would.
Yeah. Before we go to Gobo Land, let's put in our
Cutterville.
cutters. So if we fuzz out our cutters.
Was that about as much
Yeah, looks pretty good.
chromatic aberration as we had before?
Yeah.
We're starting to see off the edge of the
Oh, yeah.
cutter there. So
Yeah.
Did it just get out of whack or?
it's just not centered.
Yeah, well, pretty
There you
good.
go. That's
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Actually, it has less color aberration, looks like. It's less blue on the
Well,
left.
there's less blue. There's a little more red, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of nice combo.
Okay.
And then let's go Gobo.
Gobo Town. Oh, I see. There's a guide actually in here,
Mm-hmm.
so that it goes in the right spot.
Same problem again.
Yeah, you feel a lot more of the chromatic aberration though too, huh? Or like it's a lot warm. Like there's a lot more red and warmth up there than down here, or then maybe it's the middle.
They seem a little more even though, top and bottom, for some reason.
Can you get it any sharper?
Maybe that's the problem. I feel like if I go closer to the head and then tighten the bottom. No. Okay, so that
Feels about the same to me.
that's about there, and then if I cut this, yeah, it's definitely softer on the left than on the right. But the top and bottom feels a
Feels
little
this.
better.
Mm,
Oh no,
no, it's
no.
about the same.
Yeah, it's about the same.
There must be. I think it must just be the inherent design of this Gobo holder. It doesn't align quite right or something.
Yeah.
Or it's
Well,
just the fact that there's so much play in the actual Gobo itself.
Right. It's not being squished like the traditional Leco
Right.
holders, pattern holder.
Okay, so this is the ProLite Orion 675 FS Daylight, and we've got 84-foot candles. So more than the 600C and more than the 600,
Less than a 600X.
less than 600X. But,
Actually, pretty much exactly in between those two.
yeah, yeah.
But this is full color, so if you're comparing it to the 600C and you need a full color
Right.
fixture,
Right.
arguably better.
Especially if you already own it.
Yes, especially good if you own it. Like, I don't have any 600Cs,
Yeah.
but I do have two of these.
I've got two of these and one 600C, and I like the 600C for rigging every once in a
Yeah.
while.
Right.
Uh,
So much
yeah.
smaller.
Yeah, so
And-
it's a nice combo.
Yeah.
Fuzz it out. Color fringing or whatever on the sides is minimal, it seems. And it seems like it's like a little wider.
There is a bit more color fringing when you fuzz it out,
Yeah,
and not
Yeah.
quite as clean, probably because it's not an aperture
right,
anymore.
right.
But
This
Not-
way.
that's not horrible. There's a little bit just on the very outer edge.
Could be one of those things too where the, lights sort of divide into whether they have a power supply built in or not. There's some advantages to having the power supply built in, but in a Leco configuration, it makes it tremendously heavier
True.
than having the actual separate power supply and controls.
Yeah.
So there's our blue warmth, left and right. And now we'll spot that in a little, sharpen it.
Pretty
Oh,
good.
That's pretty good.
Again,
Which is interesting because I feel like a lot of the spotlight things up to this point have been really, really picky about the lights that they end up on. You know, they'll work great on one and then it'll be horrible on another one because the distance of the cob has changed.
So, yeah, this seems to be traveling well between units.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's put in a gobo. Oh, maybe we put it closer to the unit.
Flip it 180 degrees.
oh yeah,
And it'll be better for the cutters.
Oh, did you want a tungsten output reading on this?
Yeah, we probably should.
tightening down thing is really
Yeah.
a thing. Wow, this is really sort of less than sterling on the top to bottom.
Yeah, pretty soft on top. Sharp on the bottom. Yeah. Then cutters coming in. But we're not getting this sort of halation. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all sort of the same.
Yeah, does seem like the cutters working in conjunction with the Gobo pattern a little less great on this configuration than a standard Leco.
Yeah. Because sometimes I'll cut it just to, there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
that's not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, but if you're doing it, if you do it in the middle of the white, then you see it more obviously. Okay, let's just try tungsten.
64.
Wait a second.
Still 64.
64. Okay, so that was tungsten
On the
in
600X.
in the X. So that's good.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Oh, and because this has the locking bones mount thing, not as much, no wiggle at all
Yeah.
Right.
compared to
No
all the
wiggle.
Aputure ones were.
Yeah.
The 1200 was kind of the worst as far
It
as
was,
play
yeah.
goes.
Although it didn't seem to make a difference in the actual sharpness of the output. At least
Yeah.
when it was wiggling to 600.
Yeah, it just
Right.
makes you feel.
It just makes you feel insecure.
So this is the ProLite Orion 675 FS, but with the Nanlite projection mount, but not at 50 degree. This is 36 degree because we don't have 50 degree. I don't think they provide it or make it. Interesting, a lot more color aberration in there, and so it's nice to know that this unit, the 675, works well with the
Aputure Spotlight.
the Spotlight Max. So that's good. Let's just check this out with, and I've been using this
Front side.
this configuration, from a distance.
And this is a, what barrel is this? 36?
36, you're still seeing a color all over the place. So yeah, that would be a possibility. And then you're not spinning this, so you have to go in and
Oh,
spin your
right.
Gobo. So there's that. The sort of manual approach to getting your fingers toasty. Whoops. That worked out well. Yeah, so I'm still off. But yeah, so there's that, and that's why we want the spin. So you get that with the Max. What you don't get is the cuts. So here the cuts
Look a lot better.
are pretty good.
Right, because the Gobo Holder is right up against that.
Yeah.
Well, then you
Shutter.
don't have the sharpen up the gobo and make sure.
Yeah.
Usually it's a difference of the.
And then here, when I'm cutting, I still have the warm and cool. Let's see if I can get that sharper. The other thing is that this is a very stiff. Okay, so that's half decent. But yeah, it's still a little softer on the right side. Yeah. So in a sense, with the Spotlight Max, you're gaining for the ProLite 675, which is
If you're coming from a different off-brand
yes,
projector Bowens mount thing.
exactly. Do you ever use a 675 into a spot mount?
I have the Dado one. I've used that
Oh,
a
right.
couple times.
Right, right. But you mostly use it as a Fresnel, right?
Yeah, pretty much always
here.
use it as a Fresnel.
Yeah, I'm sitting here.
And it does that really well. And the
Yeah.
Fresnel is really nice and small, relative
Exactly.
to a lot of them.
Okay, so now let's do the 720B with this Nanlite projector. I know that barrel is very sticky. Okay, so here's the 720B from Nanlite.
I mean, that is kind of the cleanest. Well, there's spill like on the outside of it, out here a little bit, but the
Yeah.
actual edge is probably
Yeah,
the
it's a-
cleanest.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and that's the unit it was made for, so.
Right.
Then, so what do you got there?
Doesn't really matter, but 220.
Okay, and we were 300 with the other guy?
Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
It's just probably has more. I don't know. Or maybe there's a hot spot in the middle of this
Yeah.
675.
Does feel like there's a bit of a hot spot on this one.
Yeah, this one too. Yeah. Okay, so that's that, and then, no, we didn't do on the, we're gonna go back to the 600C.
That's 200 foot candles.
Okay.
Um, and again, that's 36 barrel.
200.
Right.
200 at Tungsten, and what did I say at Daylight? And 220, 240 at 240 at Daylight.
Okay, so let's go cut in. And fight with this. Yeah, you get one side sharp and one side not so sharp. And you've got those animation thing on left bottom top.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
See if it, yeah. Right there. Oh, weird. The cutters? And this bale is not that strong. Okay, and then let's put a Gobo in. So here's the Gobo in the 720B, and
That one's weird. It's like soft in the middle, then kind of sharp,
yeah.
and then soft again.
Yeah, a little uneven.
right. Yeah, so if I can make it sharper in the middle,
Well, I mean, it
that's pretty.
may
yeah.
be a factor in the actual metal holder
Mm-hmm.
more than the cob or the lens per se.
Right.
They all have that little imperfection factor.
600C with the 300 spot mount.
And this is a 96, right?
So,
Or sorry, 36.
36, yeah. So it doesn't really matter there.
Yeah,
But,
that's 100 foot candles.
Yep. And so let's look at our cuts.
Which is, what do we have on the max?
oh, so this is an actual Aputure.
Yeah, this is
This
their
is
old
the
one.
one that came first.
Yeah, it's
Right.
really designed for the 300.
300 series, not for the. Okay, so let's see if I can get it sharp. No. Okay, so you can't really get it sharp here.
No.
All right. Good enough. Okay, and then let's put a Gobo in it. Let's see, do we have one? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Oh, it's a little soft, but it's
It's a
it's
little
It's like,
uneven.
it's like got a flare.
yeah, it's got a little bend to it. Seems like that's kind of the theme we've got here. Bending all different ways. So sharpish in the middle. Yeah, it's weird. Huh. But I've
got a lot
done
of-
this like with an iris, and worked great for what we're doing. So yeah. There. So this is the 1200B with the Nanlux ETC adapter and a 50-degree EDLT lens, right?
Right.
And one reminder is you have to steal this.
Whoa, man, it's super front heavy.
You have to steal this off of a 750 light as well as the adapter,
Right. So if you have a tungsten unit,
which a lot of shops have those lying around.
yeah, you have to steal it exactly. Okay, so this is very front heavy though, even with the yoke in its forward position. Okay, so there, where are we?
We are at 300 foot candles. Is that still our mark? Or maybe
Yeah.
a little...
Yeah, we're still there.
So that's half a stop brighter than the 1200D on the
Spotlight Max.
Max. Yeah.
No kidding, with this adapter, and this isn't even like a full, that's surprising to me.
And hey, look at this. You can rotate the barrel and everything. How neat is that?
Stop it.
Whoa.
Okay, we'll do that with it when we do the cutter.
That doesn't look so good.
Yeah. There is a bit more...
What was it? You had a bend in there.
Yeah.
I think it might partially be the paper too. Is the paper?
Oh, yeah.
Or this cutter is bent. This blade could be bent on the inside too, because
Okay.
this is an old
Right.
Source board.
Yeah. Interesting.
Whoa.
I think that is it, right? Because
Yeah.
there's the.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, not nearly as good on that factor.
Is that my adapter or your adapter?
This is mine.
Oh, okay. Wow, it's like nice curves.
Try the other blades.
Yeah.
See if you get the same factor.
Here, I got mine here.
Yeah, they're not really.
Not quite.
I mean,
as-
that's a lot of space and gap to figure out what's adapting it, huh?
Yeah, I think there is just a bit more sloppiness on the edges.
If you wanted it to be the Joleeko, this is almost the better
Right, exactly.
device.
Right, because you're going for output, even if it's not quite as clean.
And you already have your all your barrels.
Right.
Oh no, this is actually off at DaylightHD. And my newest one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, these should be a little better.
But yeah, there is a lot more
Imperfection.
warping.
Yeah.
Whoa, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Ooh, taste the rainbow.
So I definitely need to look into this a little bit further. Whether this is, just a matter of the background not being completely flat or the blades or whatever. But yeah, certainly a lot of nuttiness going on here with the blades.
Man. I haven't used one of these for quite a while.
There's a little bit of a hot spot.
That's what people
This
forget.
is
They forget that
almost-
about 1K babies too.
Uh-huh.
When you
I
throw
mean,
them out.
but again, if this is the how many foot candles can I throw all the way over there?
Right, which is what
No, that's 900
that's what we use them
with
for.
a 50.
Wow.
So that's
Yeah.
that's a stop
Still
and a half
way,
more than the
way,
1200.
Way brighter.
Right, you just don't have a large throw.
That's
because
1,000 foot candles now.
Yeah, I mean, and then even the blade cutters.
Yeah, this is a joke.
So I mean,
It gets better.
it's pretty close
Comparable. Yeah,
Yeah.
to the 1200B.
right,
Yeah.
right. Just not
But you
optimized.
can't dim it. You can't
Yeah.
blah blah blah. You have to put gel
Yeah.
in front
Let's
of it.
try it just to have a
Wait,
side
let me
by side.
Wait.
let it come up to speed, and then I'll
Okay.
do an actual
Yeah.
reading. 1,300 foot candles.
Nice.
So that's
Yeah, that
2 stops more.
does have a hot spot. We'll see if the.
Right.
I
So
wanna
that's
see what the relationship
discrepancy,
is with
right?
the
Yeah.
19.
I mean, it's in here. It's
Yeah.
It's not out here. It's
Yeah.
It's this.
Right.
It's like putting on a 36 or a 26 even.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
But
just-
I mean, it's rare that I used a Joleeko with anything wider than even a 26.
Yeah.
right.
So slightly brighter than everything else,
Yeah. In a 50 degree,
but
but it'll be interesting when we put it, because really it's just this size, not out to here. And it would be interesting to see this with different lenses.
you want to pop
If you
a
try the
19.
19.
Details. Another hot spot.
That's gonna be a lot of foot candles.
4,400, 4,000.
4,000? Nice.
You know, you're still
Right.
drawing
Yeah.
less with
Yeah.
this than the 1200.
Yeah.
True that.
So, but you lose you don't have dimmability, blah blah blah. You don't have the color change ability.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
you don't have
anyway.
control.
Right.
That's kind of what I found when I originally got the Evoke adapter, right, and compared it to an 800 Joleeko. Is like 800 Joleeko is still way brighter. You're definitely not going to replace it, right, when you need a lot of output. And it doesn't matter if it's the cleanest beam or that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
I did find you can get closer if you use the Series 3 ETC shutter assembly and barrels.
Mm-hmm.
Gain maybe a stop
Oh, well, that's significant.
going to that. So it gets it closer, but it's still not. It's still not there. Is that lined up still with our mark?
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's 100, 110 foot candles. at
Okay.
Daylight,
Well, not respectable.
Yep.
which is the same as
Yeah,
what?
600X.
600X. But this draws like significantly less.
260?
260 watts.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
think the new Series 3 is 320 or something.
Right.
340.
But it's,
Yeah.
but it's,
That's still significantly less.
and it's a smaller light.
Right.
And there's a lot of them around.
Yeah. So
Do
the
you
only
need-
real reason to do the aperture thing would be if you already have if you're in the opposite situation as me, which is you own a bunch of the aperture stuff and you don't own any of these,
Right.
but you want some sort of Leco type fixture. Whereas I have, 6 of these Daylight HDs
Yeah.
and a few aperture things, but
Well, they're also cheaper to rent
right.
by nearly half.
Right. And and then you can also rotate the barrel like a cool person.
Yeah.
Um,
And this actually seems more similar top and bottom.
yeah, you're still getting that chromatic aberration,
For sure.
warm spot in the middle,
Yeah.
but
Tighter and loosening.
but yeah, it's good to know, and the other thing is this light does this. Right? You can't put this in a softbox. You can't put whatever the Fresnel is on it. This is dedicated to this particular task. So,
Not even heavy enough to be a good doorstop.
Look at that. That's kind of bowed.
Yeah.
well, the paper is very bowed.
Oh, right.
But it's good for me to know, that the difference between this and one of those other things is not very significant. So
Right.
there's really no point, aside from the kind of annoyances with just the way that the new thing is built. Not a huge incentive for me
Right.
to do that.
Well, I mean, just as a general rule too, I think a lot of Leco intensive shoots are lower foot candles. You know, not so often that I need a huge amount of foot candles for a Leco shoot.
Yeah.
This
So-
is what is this, Alan?
This is the new ETC Series 3 HD Daylight with a 50-degree barrel. Series 3 that being the most important part.
So that's
Yeah.
190 foot candles. 180, 190.
So that's almost as much as the 1200.
As the 1200D with the Spotlight Max.
And this is a 300 watt unit.
Yeah, 320 or something.
Yeah, 320 I think.
Huh? Well, that's significant.
375 max.
And this, we're having that same sort of aberration-y thing. And bowing on the top
Yeah,
and
that
bottom.
is weird. Well,
Again, it's probably the 50, but
I mean, we grew up with the tungsten Lecos, which were so precise, you know, because they were a true point source.
yeah.
And then all this stuff is like just really a fair degree of imprecision, you know,
Sure is.
because of the cob.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's try with the Gobo.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of the same, I think.
Wow.
The 50,
Yeah.
I'll give it to Aputure that their 50 is pretty even as far as like distortion and
Yeah.
aberration
Yeah.
goes
Yeah.
compared to.
I
'Cause
would
that's the
think-
hardest one to. That's the harder ones to make, are the wide angle ones.
Yeah. And I was thinking that it was going to be way worse as sort of an aftermarket thing, but yeah, actually better.
Yeah.
It's superior on
Yeah.
cross-field sharpness.
Yeah. And the.
It's
Yeah.
the left and right and the color aberration.
Mhm.
I mean, left and right here, this feels sharper, but there's a lot of color.
Yeah.
A lot of color. Yeah. But I noticed that with the regular Daylight HDs too, that
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as you fuzz it out, you see even more. This one you probably see less. Well,
Yeah. Still some.
yeah.
But you can, I would assume, you could still use the cutters in relation with this.
What's a Hampshire on this look like
Where's the Hampshire?
when it's sharp?
What is that one other shot?
Those sharpened it,
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hamp's too much.
Yeah.
You need half
Yeah.
Hampshire.
a quarter.
Again, I can just fog up the lens with my breath if you like.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, so the disappointing part for me is that none of these Source 4 made by ETC Lecos are actually that great with the cobs for pattern projection.
Yeah, not real clean.
Which I guess
No.
you never realized because we haven't done
No,
that much
and
pattern
I mean,
projection
to the
lately.
degree that maybe the shoots I'm on, I'm using less pattern projection, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sort of shocked actually how bad it is.
Yeah. Well, we're just used to using them as pops of light, or a breakup way in the background,
Yeah.
or it's going through something or some, bush or a pattern. Not a pattern, not a gobo necessarily, but
Well, and I've used them a lot for precision work where, say, there's hanging artwork or something, I'm boxing it in, I want a pretty sharp cut at the edges, and they're okay for that,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And they're brighter in their daylight as opposed to trying to gel up a tungsten light, you know.
It's good to know that the past wasn't as great as we think it is in our brains. that these new units, like, I mean, we just use this sucker all the time for everything, for patterns, for cuts, for precision stuff, for blasts of light, and it was a workhorse. But yeah, now you want to have all the control along with it, and turns out we're actually not that far away from it, and we have a whole lot more capability having it on our dimmer systems and everything. So
Well, the other interesting thing is, I go to the Berkeley Rep Theater Series here, and I've been going there for quite a few years, and I keep thinking, oh, when are they going to switch over to LEDs? Guess what? They haven't.
oh,
It's still all tungsten Lecos.
because a lot of theaters certainly have.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you could say against the power, additional power, they still have sharper cuts, sharper patterns, and it's an interior tungsten balanced world on a stage, or can be certainly. So there's still some value there.
Well, for yucks, why don't we throw up the tungsten?
Sure, why
Okay.
not? Wear your gloves.
Yeah.
Trying to get the bulb kind of focused. I mean, that is kind of a nice thing with this too. Is like you can, do
Right,
little
move things
adjustments to
around.
get the bulb in the middle of the reflector.
So this is 110
Uh,
in tungsten.
yeah.
and then we'll go to daylight. Can you go to daylight quick?
Yeah, stand by. That doesn't fit. That's the
Oh,
wrong one. I think the other one's in your.
oh, okay. Boy, their thicker Gobos are pretty nice.
I'll get 130 down here.
This is not even the right gel. I think this is half, and it's also in. Is that
60.
right? But this is half, which is not quite enough, right?
Right. Yep. And then Gobo. Oh, that looks nice.
It's got a few problems of its own, but
Yeah, could be
it's
worse.
still better.
Yeah.
Still better.
And then you get those that blue line.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I do like this defocus a little bit better than
Yeah.
those other ones. It's
Yeah.
got a little more transition zone,
Nice natural.
but still better
Fall off.
top to bottom almost than.
Yep. And left
I
to right.
mean, the Spotlight actually did a pretty good job on this part,
Right.
and I guess that gives you the, greater foot candle output on it if you're doing daylight.
Yep.
And in a daylight situation, typically we're operating at higher foot candles
Yep.
versus a
Got a
tungsten
window,
world that's
yeah.
typically far fewer foot candles needed.
Yeah. So go back to tungsten.
I got this whole
Put it all.
row of
Let's
it.
put it all on eBay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Christmas
So
special.
for the last one, oh wait a sec. Did we do that cut in? So if you lose that,
Camera going.
yep. Lose that and do the cut in.
Yeah, I mean that is
Yeah.
much better.
Yeah.
Still,
The Spotlight.
That's
The
pretty dang
Spotlight looks good for daylighty.
Yeah.
daylighty things.
Daylighty
if you've got to
things.
cut it a lot, which
Yep.
Although then the Series 3 actually wasn't so far off on
output
output.
right at half the, well, a quarter of the draw if you're comparing it to the 1200.
All right. So here's the Godox 1200 by, but it's got a 36 degree. We don't have a 50 degree for it, so it's just 36, and
1,000 foot candles.
okay. In the 36 degree, and this is 5600. Let's look at its cutting. So that you got the
Interesting. There's a fair amount of halation there.
yeah.
A lot of halation.
And
As if the internal baffling's not that great or something.
I do kind of like this the spot flood. It's not
Yeah,
as
I love
funky.
the spot flood.
And that's pretty darn sharp.
Yeah, except the halation is
Yeah, that's right.
substantial all around it.
Yeah, you're getting that bloom on left and right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I don't know if a ended up cutting that. Get rid of that.
yeah,
Well, you could fix this with a flag, it looks like.
right.
It's weird, huh?
It is.
I
But
mean,
lip sodas are always a little.
yeah, well,
funky.
okay, if you're
Yeah.
really desperate to do this, a flag would
Yeah.
make a big difference.
And then they have this outsized gobos.
Supersized.
What is this? Maybe the other way. There's little clips inside.
It was pretty sharp a moment ago. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. All around.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually the best one of all of them, I think.
Yeah.
Now, it is a narrower lens, so it could be
Right.
that the 36 on the other ones would look better than the 50.
True.
I think the 50 is just it's so wide for a Leeko that every lens aberration becomes more apparent, you know?
Definitely gives you your worst case scenario.
Um,
So then this. So that's.
I don't know. It's pretty honking big, the whole thing.
Yeah. Has a nice feel to it then in fuzzed out mode too. Yeah, it's massive, but performs pretty well.
Yeah.
In the 36 at least.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and you know, who knows? Maybe 36 is where things are.
Might more commonly land.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't be using this in a tiny room, you know?
No. Let's go to 3200 just for yucks.
$670.
670.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
A little bit of
Not
loss for
half.
tungsten,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. All right. Well, thoughts? I mean, I guess we kind of gave our summary earlier, but basically, all these units do something well, but they don't do all the things well.
yeah. And I don't know, the 50-degree barrel might be introducing a lot of imperfection in the pattern projection part of it, and it's not something I use commonly, you know, so it could be that those will perform better in a 36-26 world.
Yeah.
I was impressed with how much the Nanlux 1200B with the little adapter and the little ETC adapter and lens, how much that put out. That was pretty impressive. But also the Joleeko, massive amount of foot candles. There's nothing even remotely close to it in the lineup here today.
Right.
So I think a lot of us have been waiting for the LED Joleeko replacement, and it's apparently not here yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, for just raw output, 800 Joleeko, still king. Then units like this, I mean, that's a very heavy unit, and you're asking a lot more lot more power required, and you're introducing sound and stuff like that. So there's that. But if you want something that's more precise as far as cutting and gobos, then it helps to have a more precision unit,
Yeah.
or go tungsten.
Well, and I mean, and you can see from the size of this lens, and also the one on the Aputure Spotlight, is the lens is physically bigger, which I'm guessing allows for better pattern projection than the Leekos. And this sort of dispelled the idea that back in our tungsten days, that Leeko was always super sharp. It was like, not today.
Yeah, yeah, right. And even the ETC LEDs,
Yeah.
not so great.
Even
for
a little
gobos.
worse than the tungsten, brighter, but in daylight, but yeah, a little worse for projection stuff.
Yep.
So, which, go figure, Cobb with the bigger sensor, not even close to a point source. They're obviously doing a good job of making them work to some degree, but
Yeah.
yeah, difficult technology to adapt.
Yep. Yeah. I did like the Spotlight working with the Orion 675. That was a nice combo, and with the 600C versus the other adapters that I have been using with it, it definitely plays well with that. So I think in the 600 series, if you want more definition out of patterns or out of cuts or whatever, that's good. If you just need the raw output, then you've got the Evoke or you've got the 1200, but you're not going to be as precise in your cuts or Gobos.
Yeah. The one thing that's disappointing in a way is all of us who own lighting already have all these dilemmas of which choices to make. There's, probably 5 or 6 major brands competing, whereas there used to be 2, Arri and Mole.
Yeah.
And then now with the accessorizing of all of this, yet again, another whole, option choice burden in a way for us. Like, do I even bother to buy something that's so specific to one brand when I've got 5 brands of lights on the set? Like, in some ways, it's just getting incredibly complicated.
Especially when it doesn't do everything that you want it to. Like, you want to buy one thing, and just the being able to rotate the barrel.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a thing we've always harped on, but it's hard to get right, and it would make it even heavier or whatever it is. But like, you can't do that with this Godox unit.
Yeah. And I don't know if you can rotate that pattern in the holder. I mean, the other thing that was a little disappointing is I remember whenever I did pattern projection, I was often using the blades, and most of the lights here did not do well with the blades, with the pattern.
Right. Oh, yeah, let's throw this in a second. There we go. Okay, so now, it's really sharp.
Not bad. This has that same halation thing where if you were really keen on having a really clean image, you would want to bring a flag in.
Yeah.
But it works pretty well. If you flagged it, it would work pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, the cob just introduces all these sort of defective elements that even the smartest lens design can't fully compensate for.
Yep. No, so yeah, not a perfect world.
Yeah.
There you go. That's quite a few units. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time.
Here we are with the 1200D and the Spot Adapter Max, Spotlight Max in play here. First time in the Bay Area. We're using it to pop into a CRLS diffusion number 1 as if it's coming from the window because we're up on the 2nd floor, and doing this nice little slash in the background.
We had fun trying out all these different configurations, but it's pretty difficult to really do it justice. I've ordered the Iris for the Spotlight Max and Aputure's version of the ETC barrel adapter, so I'm looking forward to checking those out in the new year.